Hi everyone, I will be discussing the history of the story Yesterday, but before that, let us know who is the author and what motivated him to write this story. Haruki Murakami is the author of Yesterday, which was originally published on June 9 and 16, 2014. This story is a summer fiction edition. Murakami's inspiration is the Beatles song called Yesterday. Its purpose is to remember his student days when two vivid characters Tanimura met while at Waseda, where he also went. We gather some cultures of Japan from the story and try to compare and connect them to the history of the culture of Japan. First is, the dialect you speak is a pivot point in this story as well. The explanation. Kobe is a large seaport south of Tokyo, and one of the three big cities in central Japan where the Kansai dialect is spoken. Kansai is more of a regional accent than dialect, but it does include some unique and recognizable vocabulary. It is distinctly not the national standard, which would be what is spoken in Tokyo. When someone from Tokyo hears a Kansai accent, they associate a personality with the accent. Warm, outgoing, and relaxed, also a little brash and outspoken. Something that is so counter to ordinary Japanese custom as to be shocking. In the story, when Tanimura, one of the three main characters, moves from the Kobe area to go to university in Tokyo, he drops his Kansai dialect and says he wanted to be a different person of himself. Another main character in Yesterday, a well-to-do 20-year-old young man from Tokyo named Kitaro, affects the Kansai dialect. He also wants to become a totally different person, but in a completely different manner from his friend from Kobe. From that information we got in the story, we conclude that dialect is also one of the culture in Japan that had a big deal or part to Japanese people. The second one is, Japanese culture has a monolithic quality that needs confrontation. The explanation. Tokyo-ben, the Japanese standard, when spoken by men, has a distinctly reserved, assertive, gruff tone, something fitting for the business, governmental, and military center that Tokyo is. When you hear men and women in Tokyo speak, it is almost as if women have a regional dialect of their own. There is a feminine way of speaking, which is demure in the extreme, and there is a masculine way of speaking, which would not sound wrong if a character from Ernest Hemingway chose to use it. In the story, when Kitaro insists on speaking in a Kansai dialect, he is confronting expectations. He becomes a person whom other people find puzzling and annoying. The Kansai dialect he has chosen to speak sums him up. He's a kind of Mr. Opposite. What he wants is not to be a different person than himself. Rather, what he wants is to become a different person from the culture, not success-driven, not family-oriented, and not under the thumb of culture. As Kitaro confront expectations in the story, it linked with the culture of Japan that it has monolithic quality. The third one is, in the story, they are also playing out the difficulty that finding a soulmate presents in Japan. But Japan is dealing with a low marriage rate and higher than average marriage age. Many are marrying in their early 30s now, which may increase to the late 30s in a few years. Although Tanimura got married at 27, that doesn't mean it's hard to look for love in Japan. The fourth one is, one of the sticky culture in Japan is that the way life is to be lived in a certain way, according to certain rules. The author remarks that the protagonist is a kind of alternative form of himself, where back in 1968, it was a time of enormous tumult. Everything was being turned upside down because in Tokyo that time students are rebelling. In this story, Kitaro and Tanimura, the two students, play those two roles as well, the one pursuing a career, the other being a kind of flower child. Kitaro and Tanimura were friends for just a few months. They hung out and talked about everything. Girls, baseball, sex, studies. It was so vivid that Tanimura remarks, "It feels as though these things happened just yesterday." In the part where Tanimura said that everything that happened feels just yesterday, for us it seems like life really lived in a certain way and according to certain rules where everything had limitations and realizations.